Hey, welcome back. Thank you for joining me for another video experience of My Marriage is Not Perfect. I am not a relationship guru, but what I do know is what I know about my marriage and what worked and what helped us to transition to get to the 29 years that we're approaching. So today we're going to talk about a little touchy subject. It's about as touchy as the children, the spouse coming before the children. This one is extended family expectations. So let's go back to an earlier video where I said know what you will and what you won't do. Now we talked about that exchange between you and your partner. There's also a conversation that needs to be had about the extended family. Because as you and I well know, when you marry someone or you get into a relationship with that person, you're actually in a relationship with their family, their mom, their dad, their sisters, brothers, aunties, grandmas, everybody that kind of comes along with them, their best friends, that someone who was like a brother or like a sister to them. So you take in all of that. And so what are some conversations that you need to have? And I know earlier we mentioned about caring for aging parents. There has to be a conversation that happens beyond that with that, because whether the parents will come live with you or there will be assisted living somewhere, those conversations need to be had. So here's some, let's have some fun with this. Don't make it as tight as I feel you being tight about it. So how often will they visit? Let's talk about how, your mama can't come over here every day and sit in the kitchen and talk to me while I snap green beans. She just can't do that. I want some time to myself. They just can't show up whenever they want to. We have to have a scheduled time, because what has to be understood, like I said, talk about my marriage, the hierarchy of God. When my husband and I decided to get married, my mom, my dad, his parents, they became our relatives. And now he and I are family, our children, we are family. And those folks are our relatives. So we need to have an idea of when these folks are going to come visit. How often will we visit them? I know my mother-in-law loved to do Sunday dinner. She would do these big Sunday dinners every Sunday that looked almost like Thanksgiving. And sometimes it was just too much for me. Like sometimes I just didn't want to go. And my husband and I had conversations where it was just like, you know what, you don't have to go. Take the kids. Now the kids go because that's their grandmother. That's his mother. He wants to share that part of his family with his extended family. But I didn't have to go. So have those conversations about that. Determine where holidays will be spent, because I have seen folks get into some knockdown drag-outs, being mad at one another as to where they're going to spend Thanksgiving and Christmas. And usually it's those first couple of holidays where you kind of get into them little trenches about something. So, if the family lives a distance, then you need to plan, well, this Thanksgiving we're going to my mom's and maybe Christmas we'll stay home. And you kind of rotate, have that conversation, and have that conversation with your parent. If you are the person that has to break the news, you have to explain to your parent. I'll share a story with you. When my husband and I first started dating, I'm a stickler for time. I have this thing about time. And his mom liked the grocery store where I would travel to shop. And so she said she wanted to go shopping with me, and I told her what time I would be there, and blah, blah, blah. Well, she was late. She made me late. So I said, okay, we go grocery shopping, we come back home, and where she lived on the third floor. When we get there, no one comes down to help with the groceries. And that happened like twice, that's it. And I finally had to say to my husband, I said, look, was my boyfriend at the time, but I said, I love your mom and I don't mind her going shopping with me. But if she's going to go shopping with me again, there are two things that have to happen. She must be on time and someone must come down and help with the groceries. If she can't meet those two qualifications, then I can't take her grocery shopping. He had the conversation with his mom. We never went grocery shopping together again. There was no hard feelings, but those are my expectations. You can't just do something and it makes you feel uncomfortable and just kind of keep going with it and you're angry about it all the time, because then that's going to cause discord in your marriage. So, have those conversations. I already said your immediate family or your new relatives. And start off in the beginning. If you have these conversations in the onset of the relationship, like, she knew that I was a stickler for time. So as long as we were married, as long as she lived on this earth, she knew how I felt about time. Never happened again. It never happened to the extent of it impacted me. So that way, if you have it early, You don't get to year 5, 6, or 7 and somebody says, oh, now you're just trying to be brand new, or you got an attitude, now you just having a problem with my family all along, you've been doing this, now all those conversations that kind of come with that. So just make sure that you have those conversations early on in the game. And yes, there will be difficulty when you kind of merge families together. There are some families that absolutely come together and they're blissfully happy and everybody's getting along just fine. And sometimes they're not. And sometimes it's because the other parent, the parent of your spouse does not want to let go. They want to try to be controlling, and your spouse does not know how to push them back. It wasn't up to me to have the conversation with my future mother-in-law. It was my husband to have the conversation. And that's where we kind of run into trouble, because people think that they can't have these conversations with their parents. Remember, once you get married, your mom, dad, sister, and brothers, those people become your relatives. And when you can understand that, if you get the 50-50, marriage is not 50-50, know what you will and won't do, and these extended family expectations, child, you'll see 29, 30, 40, 60 years of marriage with that simple understanding. So thank you for joining me for this video. We have our next video coming up. We're going to be coming to a close. This is almost done. So I thank you for joining me thus far. I look forward to seeing you at the next video.